Hello, welcome to Let's Get Growing. It's Jo here from Bulwell Forest Community Garden, and I think it's tutorial number 10. So we're into May, though you wouldn't have known it really by May Day. It was pretty horrible yesterday. It was cold, it was windy, it was wet, but anyway, it's a bit better today. So I'm going to start with this week's pack. So the first thing you should have in here is, so you've got two plants and one's summer savoury. So this is a herb. It's really nice. It's an annual, so it'll just grow for this year like basil does and rocket. It's really nice with sort of egg dishes, so you can put it in scrambled egg. It's got a nice taste. So the first thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to look at it and see. It's in quite a small pot, see if I think it needs repotting, and the way to do that is just to tip it out if you can't see its roots growing there, and have a look. And this looks to me like it's filled its pot there. So the first thing I'm going to do is bob this into a bigger pot, the next size up. So I'm going to put some compost about half full. And then I'm going to tip it out, and I'm not going to disturb those roots at all because it's not pot bound. I'm going to place it in the middle and then just put the compost in gently around it. Firm it in, and then I'll give that a water and I'll put a label on it. I'm running out of room in here. Now the next one I've got is a little Leo sunflower. So these are dwarf sunflowers and they've got sort of multi heads, so you get a lot of flowers. They don't grow very tall, so you don't have to stake them. They're really kind of colourful and good for wildlife. And I'm going to have a look at this and see if I think it needs repotting. It's alright actually at the moment. There's still, like you can see, loose compost falling down. So I think with this one I'm going to leave it in a pot. But I'll probably, because they grow quite quickly, I'll probably pot it on in a few days. I'll have another look at it. But I'm going to leave it as it is for now. And then the next things you've got, you should have a packet of peas. So it says pea snap, so it's a snap pea. So you eat it like a bit like a mange too, but you let it fill its pod a little bit more. So you should have in here, you should have about 8 seeds. So I'm going to do these into the trusted toilet roll tubes. So I'm using a mushroom punnet to hold them, but I've made some holes in the bottom of them because you don't want them sitting in a load of wet compost really. So I'm going to fill my tubes up. And again, toilet roll tubes are great for peas because they've got deep roots and you don't want to disturb them at all while they're growing. And also you're recycling, which is good. A bit fiddly to get your compost in. And with the seeds, if you want them to germinate a bit quicker, you could even soak them in some water for a couple of hours. I haven't done with mine, it's not essential. So fill them up. I'm going to dip a hole, just a couple of centimetres deep, if that really. Oh, there's only 6 in there, so, oh no, wait a minute. Yeah, I've got 8. And then it's just one seed in each tube. Cover them up. Press them down. I've got a label in there, and I've given them water with the watering can with a fine rose on the end, and then I'll probably bob another mushroom punnet, a clear one, over the top, and that's a nice tight fit, just to give them a bit of warmth, so that they until they germinate, and then I'll take that lid off. And the other thing you should have in here is some wild rocket seeds, and I've got some, I'll show you in a bit, I've got some outside from last year. So these don't really like to be transplanted, and you can try, but they tend to go to seed if you disturb them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant them. It looks like nothing, but there is quite a few seeds in there because the seeds are so tiny. I'm going to sow them into a pot, which is going to be their final growing place, so I don't disturb them. So I'm going to fill that up with compost. Again, I've got good quality peat-free compost. So this compost is fine for like sowing seeds and for growing plants on. Now it looks like hardly anything, but there's I've got all of them. There's a little pinch of them. There's quite a few seeds there, although it looks like nothing. And then I'm just gonna try and spread them out using my finger and my thumb. And then, because they're so small, get into the corners of the packet. And I'm going to cover them up, but not with very much, because they're such small seeds, they don't need much cover. And then I'll water that gently, and I'll put a label on. And that's that for this week's seeds. So let's have a look at previous weeks. So there's a lot going on. The basil's come up, but it's too young to handle yet. It hasn't got its true leaves, so I'm not doing anything with that yet. And then I think you can see the dwarf beans just starting to come up. So once they get big enough to handle, I'd be moving them on, either into the next stage pot or into the ground if it gets a bit warmer at night. Now the spring onions that we did, they're getting about big enough to handle. They're alright, I can see the roots there. Be alright for a few days, but it depends what you're doing with them. I'm going to get these into the ground, so if you want to try yours in the ground, I have got another video from last year which I will put up on the Facebook page, or you could transplant them into the like the troughs like we did at the start of the Let's Get Growing scheme. And my sweet williams, they're getting nearly ready to go into pots or into the ground, but the roots haven't started to come through yet, but I think they're okay in there for a bit longer. And oh, the lettuce, so the lettuce is ready to cut. So this one I was just doing as a cut and come again, so I would just cut the whole lot off and eat it, and then keep watering it, and you should get another crop from that. And I've got some in a tray, some are planted out on my allotment. These are kind of desperate for something, either planting out or going into a bigger pot, or I could just do them as cut and come again, which I'll see what I have time to do really. And then the cosmos, that's germinated, but it hasn't got its true leaves yet, which are sort of like these which were done sooner, which are kind of feathery. So I'll leave these a little while longer till they're big enough to handle. Now the calendulas, these are desperate really. You can see how they've filled their pots, and they're kind of quite a hardy annual. So I think when yours get to this stage, you could either, I'm going to plant one out. I think these three, I might put them in a pot together. So I've got some old compost. They're not particularly fussy plants, so I'm going to just use some old compost, I think, to save my compost at the base of that. And then I'm just going to tip them like that, and I'm not going to disturb that because it's not it's not pot bound. It's ready to go out, but it's not gone past it. And I'm just going to put 3 in, and it's good to plant in odd numbers. I don't know why. And then I think at the top I'll put some new compost. And I think I'm going to put these outside. I'm going to risk it and get them outside. It's difficult this time of year. You have to kind of make sort of decisions really on... I'm running out of space in here, so some things are going to have to go out. And because these are kind of a hardy annual, I think these are going to be okay. Though the slugs might have a feast on them. Okay, so I'll put them out. My peas are flowering. Good time to feed them now when they start to flower. And the sunflowers, actually, the sunflowers are all, and it's the same principle really with any of these. When you look at them, you can see the roots there. You can tip it. That's the sunflowers need they need bigger pots, or they need to go into the ground. But I don't want to put my sunflowers out yet because they are a bit fragile. So I'll put 3 of them into a big pot here. They do get quite tall, to these red sunflowers, so you will have to stake them. I haven't put like proper canes in yet because they won't fit in here, so I've just put some short ones temporarily, and I think I will be doing the same with my other sunflowers as well. Okay, so outside we've got, let's have a check of things. So these are my potatoes. You can see these leaves shooting through. I've got something else there, might be a sunflower from last year. Anyway, these need covering up. So if they're in the ground, you'd earth them up, so you'd rake up earth around them, but they're in a pot, so all I'm going to do is just cover those leaves up. And that's just some kind of a mixture of old compost and some homemade compost, so they're covered up. Everything's doing okay. The wildflowers are nearly flowering, but last time, 2 weeks ago, I made some nettle feed, and so what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to give them a bit of a feed, especially the onions and the garlic and the spring onions. I'm not going to feed the wildflowers because they like it poorer soil. So let's have a look at what we made. Oh, it's gone like sort of gelatinous on top there, so... Ooh, smelly. If you put comfrey in it, it'll be even smellier. So I'm going to get... It's not that strong, this. It's not an exact science because you don't know how strong it is. But the important thing is that your plants have been watered, and that's definitely happened yesterday. So I don't need to water these first, but you don't want to burn your plants. So you water them first and then you feed them afterwards. So I'm going to put some of my feed into a watering can. And I think I'll give the potatoes, I should stir it up really, but I'll give the potatoes a bit. And the onions and the strawberries and the spring onions and the garlic. And the other thing to watch out for is, now it's rained, is there's probably going to be our favourite pests around, and I think there's a few. Let's have a look. Here we go. So we've got 1, 2, 3 slugs, 4 maybe, hanging out at the bottom of the pot, and they like to go in and lay eggs in these bits. So if you've got a slug problem, which we probably all will have now it's started to rain, is you can remove them. I kind of put them in the compost heap, or put them in the pond. And then over here, so this is my wild rocket from last year, which has gone. It's a bit tough. What I probably would do with this, it needs a weed, but I would cut it down. I've had some off it, but it will over winter. but it'll never be, it'll probably be a bit bitterer, but you need to keep trimming it. So these are the sweet peas. So I've got 4 of these, and I've got another one that came from work, was sown in October. No, actually it was later than that, November, December. They kind of need planting out. I've got no room, and you could wait a bit longer if you wanted, but I think I'm going to get these out. They are kind of relatively hardy, and they've been hardened off. So they're going to need something to grow up. So if you're going to do them in pots, you could use TP. You could make yourself a TP with 3 canes and stick them in. I've just got, I don't know what it is, it's something I found in a skip, and I'm going to grow them up here. Let's put some sticks in it. So what I'm going to do is dig a hole. I've got a little kind of raised flower bed here. Not got much ground in this garden, so we grow a lot of things in pots, but made this last year so we could grow some flowers. And I'm going to put these near where we sit in the evening because they smell nice. So I've got a hole, it's about the right size. So with these we don't want to disturb them at all, so I'm going to tip it, and that's really kind of desperate to go out, but I'm going to leave that because it won't like it if I start teasing them out. Put it in. The soil's nice and damp after all that rain, so it's kind of quite a good time to plant anything hardy out. And I'm going to do that all the way around. I'll just put one more in to show you. Nice worms in there. Again, just tip. Place it in. Press it down. And what you'll need to do is to tie them up, and you can pinch them out again. You pinch the tips out again, they're going to bush out. It would be helpful to the plant so it's not laying on the ground, the slugs won't eat it so much, as just to tie them in there. And that's it. There's a lot to do. May's a very busy time of year as a gardener, but yeah. Just try and keep on top of things and watch out for slugs and other pests and frosts, really. So we're still not at the time when you can get your frost tender plants out just yet, but hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll be at that stage. Okay, happy gardening, thanks for watching. Bye.
One.
So what I'm going to do here is I've got my sweet peas and you have to stop. Stop it. One's got false nose on. Stop it.